Thank you for joining us in today's Policy Tension. I am Professor Odbuagu Ugorji Udensi. What if I told you a rule written in Washington is forcing factories in Bangladesh, banks in Nigeria, and suppliers in Vietnam to completely change how they do business? This isn't trade policy. It's not even classic climate policy. It's sustainability reporting, and it is quietly rewiring the global economy. In Bangladesh, export factories now face new data demands. In Nigeria, banks are being pushed to disclose climate risk. In Vietnam, suppliers to US brands are suddenly being asked to measure and report their carbon footprint. The same rules in Washington now reach deep into these local economies. This is the subtlety. On paper, these are disclosure rules, not carbon taxes or trade sanctions. But when financial markets start to treat sustainability as risk, reporting stops being a formality. It becomes a lever of economic power. At the center of this shift is the US Securities and Exchange Commission. Its push for climate disclosure is doing something powerful, turning sustainability into financial risk. And once that happens, investors everywhere begin to pay very close attention. Here is how the ripple effect begins. First, capital moves. Investors demand better ESG data. No disclosure often means no capital, or at best, more expensive capital. Pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, and asset managers start to screen on climate risk, long before any smokestack is shut down. Then supply chains follow. A US-listed company begins reporting its emissions. To do that, it must pull data from every major supplier. Suddenly, factories in Vietnam and Bangladesh and manufacturers in India are being asked for carbon inventories, energy data, and transition plans just to stay in the supply chain. For many firms, this is the moment sustainability stops being a voluntary add-on and becomes a mandatory license to operate. They are not changing because a local ministry asked nicely. They are moving because losing a US buyer or investor is too costly to risk. Governments and standard setters react. The European Union moves further and faster through CSRD and double materiality. The International Sustainability Standards Board emerges as a global reference point. Even where governments are slower, markets are already acting as if these standards are inevitable. But there is a real tension. The US tends to frame disclosures around what affects profits, investor materiality. The EU adds what affects the planet and people, double materiality. Two philosophies, one global economy. And companies with international footprints have to satisfy both at the same time. Some countries are well positioned in this new order. The United Kingdom, with deep financial markets and TCFD-aligned rules, has become an agile adapter between US and EU systems. Japan, with strong corporate governance and rapid ISSB alignment, is quietly stepping up as a global ESG compliance leader. Others are under real strain. Nigeria has climate policy ambition but weak MRV systems and limited enforcement. Bangladesh sits at the heart of global textiles, heavily exposed to brand demands, yet with low institutional capacity and fragmented data systems. They face the pressure without the full infrastructure. Vietnam is a textbook example of supply chain-driven compliance. High export exposure to Western markets means local firms are being pulled into reporting regimes they did not design, and often did not anticipate, simply to keep contracts alive. We are in effect watching three groups emerge: rulemakers, who write the standards; strategic aligners, who move quickly to avoid being left behind; and reactive adopters, forced to play by rules they did not set. This is not just about climate, it is about power in the global economy. The real story is this: sustainability reporting is no longer only about transparency. It has become a mechanism of economic power. Whoever sets the reporting rules increasingly shapes where capital flows, which industries modernize, and who carries the heaviest adjustment burden. So next time you hear the phrase ESG disclosure or climate reporting, don't think of it as paperwork. Think of it as global economic realignment, where climate risk, financial risk, and geopolitical power are converging. I am Professor Oguagu Ugorji Udensi. Thank you for joining this briefing.